Hey guys, it's me again. Today I'm a tad bit upset about evolution again. This time it's about some of the extensively false things that people are saying. Um, and I know I've already touched on this topic, and I was talking about how there were some people who tried to use science that they made up off the top of their heads to refute evolution. Um, but this time, I'm it's a different type of evolution refuter. People who attack the idea of evolution and attack evolutionists with their own ideals and ideas about how the world has worked and is supposed to work. So this video is a response to a video called "Evolution is Fake," I believe. I believe that's the title by JesusDudeGuy. Um, and I've made a list of points that he made through his video that I'm going to go through the list, and some of these points are decently founded, and some of them make a little sense, or some of them make a lot of sense, but not all of them. Some of them are a little flawed, and just want to talk him through this, or yeah, talk him through this. Um, First point of interest. This isn't a quote, but the general gist of the first point of interest was evolution is an attempt to turn Christians into Satanists. Which is not true, because evolution isn't trying to turn anybody into anything else, anything they're not. It's just a series of observations made by scientists over years of research. You could say hundreds of years, but well, yeah, I guess it is hundreds of years when you take all the evidence that's been discovered, whether it was for the purpose of evolution or just by chance. But all this stuff that's been found is sort of leaning towards evolution. Um, but I'm not sure where it gets the Christians into Satanist part, because Christians aren't the only people who are told about evolution. Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Taoists, all those people, they're all told, all religions, pagans, everybody can be told and taught about religion. That does not mean that I mean they can all be taught about evolution. Every religion can be taught about evolution. That does not mean that evolution is trying to change them. It means evolution is speaking to them. It is they are well no, that sounds strange, but they are learning about evolution, which doesn't necessarily change them. I mean, it could possibly turn somebody into an atheist, but an atheist is not a Satanist. In fact, atheist means no religion. So and Satanism is a religion. And you can't say that somebody without religion has a religion cuz that's just backwards. Um, so I'm not really sure how to definitely refute that statement, but I just did the best I could. Um, Here's a quote. A couple hundred years ago, everyone you knew was a monkey. Not true. No evolutionist says that. No scientist has ever told us that a couple hundred years ago, everyone we knew was a monkey. Sorry, singular. Um, a couple hundred years ago, give or take, America was founded. That's something that science has told us. I mean, social science, history. Uh, and anybody who studies evolution has probably studied history and can tell you that a couple hundred years ago, America was founded. And 10,000 years ago, agriculture was invented. Give or take hundreds, maybe 1,000 years. Um, then 2 million years ago, humans could first be defined as humans. I mean, maybe there were both Neanderthals and humans, but Neanderthals are supposedly another race of human with differently shaped skulls for some reason. Um, and then before humans, there was a human-like creature that was a little bit more like an ape than a human. Then before them, I mean, their parents, which were still, I mean, that human and a little bit ape creature was able to reproduce with humans because it wasn't a separate species yet. But it wasn't, and it was able to reproduce with creatures similar to its parents and grandparents and great grandparents probably. I mean, it couldn't reproduce with those actual ancestors. That's incest, and that would produce all sorts of strange mutations. But the way evolution works, it didn't take a few hundred years. It took 4 billion years. 4 billion years. Now, the Bible says, or supposedly the Bible says, that the earth has been around for 6,000 years. Now, if you listen to the Bible, I mean, even if you listen to the Bible, then, and also listen to evolution, which doesn't make much sense, then evolution took 6,000 years, not 300, like you said. Another point you made, 300 years ago, we were fish coming out of the ground. Fish did not come out of the ground. Um, in the At the beginning of evolution, supposedly we were little bubbles without even DNA or genetics or maybe a couple of proteins floating around there, but we were just little bubbles with separation and like able to control what comes in and goes out, like food or waste. Um, and eventually they gained DNA after splitting hundreds of thousands of billions of times, like cells do. They split, and then we came to something that we could call a life form because it had DNA, it had RNA, and it had proteins. And then that gradually it began splitting, and then a mutation happened from a ray from the sun or a ray from another star, which is incredibly unlikely. But rays from the sun can jolt a piece of DNA or a link of DNA around, and that caused a mutation so that one of the sister cells, after a cell split into two sister cells, was slightly different. And then over time that changed, and there were slightly different, really tiny cells, and some of them were able to eat one another. And eventually we got plants through all that reproduction and slow change. And then we got animals. And then things started to pick up in what's known as the Cambrian explosion, which is this huge diversity because sex was invented. That is a very blunt way of putting it, but sex was invented around, oh, double check me on this, scientists. I think it's 2 billion years ago. And that caused a lot of diversity because it allowed creatures to mix their genetic material. And then fish gradually became existent because a tail would allow them to swim faster, fins would allow them to steer and turn out of the way of predators or to catch their food, jaws snap around their food much easier than having to morph around them like an amoeba. So fish did not just pop out of the ground. They evolved over a long period of time. Another point you made is that fish magically grew legs in like 2 seconds. Not true. Over hundreds of thousands of generations, some species of fish, were mutated so that they could be on land a little longer. Then that trait was passed down because that's a favorable trait if you're trying to get away from a big fish. Just hop up through the mud like a mud skipper. And then that gradually became legs because legs let you run around on land a lot more efficiently. Okay, this is a Christian nation. This has nothing to do with evolution, but it's not a Christian nation. In fact, the Constitution does not mention religion until it says there will be a separation of church and state. Which is the opposite of a Christian Christian nation. It is a separation of Christianity and the nation. Everyone who believes in evolution worships Satan. It is a fact. That is a quote from you. I believe in evolution. I don't worship Satan. I'm an atheist Jew. Now, that's not a term that a lot of people are familiar with. You may want to look it up since I'm running. Oh, I got 5 seconds. I can continue this video in a secondary video. Oh, It didn't cut me off at 10 minutes? Okay. Um, so it is not a fact that everyone who believes in evolution worships Satan. Now, the term believes in evolution is already a fallacy, meaning false, because people don't believe in evolution. They observe the evidence and understand evolution. Now, whether that understanding replaces their belief of the creation story is their choice. For me, it did. But for others, they still believe that God created everything and then evolution took its path. And other people, they understand evolution, just don't accept it. I was thinking about worshiping Satan. Where did he evolve? Why would we think he evolved? I mean, the classic view of Satan, a scaly beast with like a forked tail or whatever, horns, wings. No creature, no vertebrate in history has 6 limbs, 2 of which are wings, 2 are arms, 2 are legs, also a tail and horns. Nothing could have, nothing that we have seen could have become what Christians refer to as the devil. Even if the devil looks human. Let me see. But people who believe in evolution do not have to worship Satan. And it's definitely not a fact that they worship Satan. Because that's a broad generalization. Like, what if I said everyone who is a Christian believes polygamy is an idea? Like, polygamy is okay. Because one group of Christians believe this. That's a huge jump to conclusions there. And that's not okay. That's not something people should do. I mean, that's a big jump. See, next point you make is walking fish decides to become a dinosaur. No. That's another big no jump. Just a walking fish is a walking fish. And actually, walking fish are called amphibians. They lay their eggs in the water, and then they come out as fish-like creatures. Then eventually they grow legs in like as metamorphosis, not as evolution, because creatures don't change their DNA in their lifetimes. So amphibians lay their eggs in the water. They swim around as fish-like creatures. Then they metamorph with grow legs and a distinguished head, and their eyes come up a little, and they walk around on the land, usually on all fours, unless there's a very serious mutation, in which case that would not be able to pass down, because a mutation in which a creature grows another limb cannot be passed down. It's too strong of a mutation. Then some amphibians, because amphibian eggs laid in the water can be eaten by big fish because they're in the water, which is not a good thing. So amphibians whose DNA was mutated in order to lay eggs on land with hard shells, and then those eggs would hatch on land into creatures able to walk on land, they were favored because they could survive on land much better than amphibians. So they became reptiles. I mean, they probably didn't have scales yet, because this is where amphibians branch out into mammals and reptiles. Because at this point, amphibians aren't amphibians, but they're not reptiles and they're not mammals. They've got dry skin, 4 legs, hatch on land, and live on land. But they're nothing that we can identify yet. And then some of them adapted to live underground and grow fur to keep them warm and safe from dirt falling, have a great nose for sniffing things out. Those are mammals. Then another branch evolved over time to have scales and sharp teeth and be able to move fast. Some of them stood up on their hind legs. Those are dinosaurs. Walking fish didn't magically become, oh, I want to be a dinosaur, and now I'm a Tyrannosaurus Rex. doesn't make sense. It doesn't work that way. Um, Dinosaurs became monkeys. This is not true. This is not even evolutionarily true, because dinosaurs are not our ancestors. Dinosaurs are a separate branch entirely. I mean, this is kind of like saying bananas became butterflies. No, uh, because bananas and butterflies, two